This is PTV World. I am Syed Shabahat Ali and you are watching Faultlines. In a surprising move, US President Joe Biden described the killing of Ottoman Armenians during World War I as genocide, becoming the first US president to use the controversial term. Biden's remarks came in a customary statement on the anniversary, a day after informing his Turkish counterpart, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, that he would go ahead with this step and seeking to limit the expected uproar from NATO ally. Rejecting Biden's statement, Turkey's foreign ministry has said on Saturday that US officials ignored history and bowed down to the demands of the lobbyist. Is this a step going to break the back of strained relationship between US and Turkey? Is United States upset with Turkey's increasing influence in the Middle East, including Syria and Libya? Has Biden decided to take all nations who support Russia by the horns? We will find in today's program. Our team has prepared a package. Watch the package before I bring my first guest to the program.
The United States-Turkey friendship dates back to 1831, when the United States established diplomatic relations with the Ottoman Empire. After World War I and the founding of the Turkish Republic, the United States established diplomatic relations with the Republic of Turkey in 1927. Turkey is a key NATO ally since 1952 and critical regional partner, and feels that it is in her interest and a critical regional partner. Furthermore, Turkey contributes to international security alongside the United States in Afghanistan peace process, efforts to defeat terrorist organizations, the seas bordering Somalia, the Mediterranean, and previously also fully supported the United States in the fight against Islamic State. The relations, however, have been complicating the past few years. In a historic move, Biden says 1915 massacre of Armenians in the Ottoman Empire constitutes a genocide. This move came after previously United States President avoided this matter. The largely symbolic move, breaking away from decades of carefully calibrated language from the White House, was welcomed by the Armenian diaspora in the United States, but comes at a time when Ankara and Washington, D.C. grapple with deep policy disagreements over a host of issues, such as Turkey's purchase of the Russian-made S-400 missile defense systems, the Syrian Kurds, and the Eastern Mediterranean crisis. Turkey's government and most of the opposition unitarily rejected Biden's statement. The foreign minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said Turkey entirely rejects the U.S. decision, which he said was based solely on populism, while the opposition denounced it as a major mistake. Turkey accepts that many Armenians living in the Ottoman Empire were killed in clashes with the Ottoman forces during World War I, but contests the figures and denies the killings were systematically orchestrated and constitute a genocide. How will this recent development, Turkey's buying of S-400, along with other significant issues, impact the U.S.-Turkey relations?
My first guest in the program from United States, Dr. Carl from the University of Akron. Dr. Carl, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Carl, what is happening between United States and Turkey? What is the background of these new developments?
Well, I think there are really two things that motivated Biden to make this announcement. One is definitely domestic politics in the United States. While he was campaigning in the presidential campaign, he stated clearly that he wanted to make this announcement. And so he was somewhat boxed in by that promise. And so it's really, in a way, not too surprising that he made this statement about Turkey and the Armenian genocide. The second thing I think that's very important to understand is the context of U.S.-Turkish relations, which your run-up just talked about. They're really at a low point right now. And the United States government has been aggravated with Erdogan's behavior for a few years now. And I think Biden wants to make it clear to Erdogan that the United States is willing to push on Turkey. And part of that is due to the fact that I think it's pretty clear in U.S. national security and foreign policy circles that Turkey needs the United States now more than the United States really needs Turkey. Now, we both need each other, but Turkey has less leverage now. It's really in a bad place economically. It doesn't have the kind of leverage it had when the Islamic State was such a threat in Syria and Iraq. And so now I think was the right time, at least from Biden's perspective, to make the announcement.
Dr. Kahl, when recently United States had announced that the talks with Taliban and the international actors interested in Afghan peace process would be dealt by Turkey, we for a while thought that the Turkish leadership is enjoying a better harmony or a better diplomatic relationship with the United States. But right after that, we have this announcement. So there are some confusing signals coming out of Washington, D.C.
Well, I think the thinking in Washington is that Turkey's not going to walk away. That Turkey, while they'll definitely voice outrage about this, and they have, and there may be more to come in terms of statements from the Turks, I think the attitude in Washington is that Turkey is not going to significantly change its relationship with the United States, that it will continue to try to play a helpful role in things like intra-Afghan talks and other aspects of international relations that are important for the United States. So I think there was clearly a calculation that this announcement would not severely change the relationship between the United States and Turkey and really wouldn't damage U.S. interests.
But some commentators, particularly in the Middle East, are of the view that this is primarily coming out of the recent developments and the defense agreements between Turkey and Russia. Some believe that the increasing influence of Russia in Turkey is causing stress in Washington's relationship with Istanbul and Ankara.
Well, I think that is part of what is going on. As I said earlier, there has been a deterioration in the U.S.-Turkish relationship, and certainly the purchase of Russian weapon systems that could have a significant negative impact on NATO is a rubbing point between the United States and Turkey. And so I think part of what is going on with this announcement about the Armenian genocide is to also signal to Turkey that the United States' patience with Turkey is kind of running out. There's been a very strong anger in Washington that Turkey took the step to purchase the Russian anti-air system when that would put NATO planes potentially at risk because the Russians would get access to information that would help their own anti-aircraft systems. So this is I wouldn't call it a shot across the bow. It's more of a signal to the Turks that, look, we have limits to how much we'll put up with. I don't think it's about so much Turkey turning strategically to Russia. I don't really see that happening with the Turks, but it's more about specific items like the purchase of the anti-aircraft missile system.
Dr. Kahl, we have recently seen some very important developments between Turkey and its neighborhood. Turkey's increasing relationship with Moscow and its engagement in Libya and Syria have been criticized a lot by the Western media. What's your take on that?
Well, Turkey has taken a more aggressive foreign policy posture in the Middle East that is viewed by Washington, I know, as partially because of Turkey trying to secure its interests. So clearly in Syria, Turkey is trying to secure its interests. To a certain degree, that's true in Libya as well. I do know that there are questions about whether this is maybe driven by a sense of Erdogan trying to make Turkey a great power again. So we talk about sometimes this neo-Ottomanism, that perhaps Erdogan is trying to not recreate the Ottoman Empire, but kind of bring back some of the greatness that Turkey had in the past by flexing its muscles around the region. And I do think there is something to that. And to a degree, particularly with the issues in Syria, this complicates the relationship between Turkey and the United States, because what Turkey has done in Syria to a great extent has made it more difficult for the United States to try to achieve the outcomes it wants in that country, particularly vis-a-vis the Islamic State. So, for example, by weakening the Kurds, this is viewed by the United States as not helpful at all in the fight against the Islamic State, which still remains a threat in Syria and in Iraq.
Dr. Kaul, you said in the earlier question that this was one of the campaign promises by President Biden, that he will declare this as a genocide. Do you see anything else coming after it? Like we have seen recently, U.S. Generously imposing sanctions on the countries that it has problems with. And when it comes to genocide, I understand that the West is not very comfortable with such terminologies. So do you think, or do you foresee any financial impact or any financial strangulation to be followed by this act, as you yourself said that Turkish financial position is not very good these days?
Right. So I've not heard any talk about sanctions against Turkey because of this announcement. I think this is mostly a symbolic act. It's to a degree shaming the Turkish government, but I don't see follow-on actions to really punish Turkey and deteriorate the relationship between the United States and Turkey further. I think it's very clear to the Biden administration that economic sanctions on Turkey right now would be very detrimental to Turkey's economic situation. Turkey's in a very precarious place right now. It's not in the interest of the United States to make that more precarious. Even if Turkey is doing things right now that are considered detrimental to American interests, like, for example, in Syria, the weapons purchases, potentially destabilizing Libya, those kinds of actions are things that the United States is not willing to destabilize Turkey over. A destabilized Turkey is certainly not in U.S. interests. And the way the economy is going right now in Turkey, there is some potential for destabilization.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaul, again in my program. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break here and we'll join back with the second segment of the program. Stay with us. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand that the topic of today's program is a bit complicated. This dates back in 1915, when more than 300,000, according to the Turkish version, more than 300,000 lives were lost from the people of Armenia when they were being dislocated from one place to another because of some issues pertaining to World War. There is a video that I want you to watch before we take our second guest into the program. Watch this video and we start our program with the second guest then.
Between 1893 and 1915, Ottoman Armenians rebelled against the Ottoman government. They joined two Armenian separatist groups, the notorious Dashnaks and Hunchaks. These two groups armed and paved the way for a Russian invasion of Eastern Anatolia. Armenians started revolts in parts of Eastern Anatolia in an effort to obtain autonomy in the Caucasus and Eastern Anatolia. In 1914, the Russians went to war with the Turks, and the Armenians decided it was the right time to get what they wanted.
We had embraced Russia wholeheartedly without any compunction. Without any positive basis of fact, we believed that the Tsarist government would grant us a more or less broad self-government.
They thought that if they provided volunteers for the Russian army, and they supplied 4 brigades, that they would be able to rely on the Russians to set up a separate Armenia And of course, to do that kind of thing in 1915, when the Turks were being attacked by the British and French in Gallipoli, more or less the same time, was a terrible provocation.
As the Ottoman Empire was at war on many fronts, the Russians were heavily supporting the Armenians. Now, to be clear, not every Armenian living under Ottoman rule was part of this uprising.
Sensible Armenians said, this is a terrible mistake. And what did the Dashnaks do? They shoot them.
The Armenian gangs were getting more violent, and by this time they were cutting off vital supply routes and transport lines of the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire decided to relocate around 700,000 Armenians to parts of what is now Iraq and Syria. A letter by the Minister of Internal Affairs to several district governors highlights the importance the Ottoman Empire gave to the Armenians.
It is essential that the security of the Armenians being moved be provided in full during their journey. The local population must not, under any circumstances, be allowed to take action against the Armenians during their journey. However, every precaution must be taken against possible attacks from the clans and villages on the route, and any who attempt such an attack must be stopped, using force if necessary.
Archived documents reveal that there were some Ottoman officials and citizens who committed offenses against Armenian convoys contrary to their orders. More than 1,000 Ottomans, including government officials, were identified and tried on charges of killing Armenians. They were held responsible for the Armenian losses and punished in 1916, some with capital punishment.
The Ottomans tried to follow the rule of law. For crimes against Armenians, they tried and many times hung the people who had done these things, including an Ottoman governor. They weren't perfect. A lot of people got away, no doubt about it. But how many Armenians or Russians who killed Turks, how many of them were ever tried and convicted? None. Not a single one.
2.5 million Anatolian Muslims died in the same period, far exceeding the number of Armenians who died during the relocation due to tribal crimes, illnesses, plague and famine. The Armenians were being relocated in groups of 200 and had been guaranteed that they could return once the danger was over. During the relocation, Armenian gangs also killed thousands of Armenians, accusing them of betrayal. Those living in Izmir, Istanbul and Edirne were not relocated as they did not pose a threat or were not in danger. It is believed that after the war was over, 280,000 Armenians returned to the Anatolian portion of the occupied Ottoman Empire, and a total of 700,000 Armenians emigrated to other countries.
So if you want to accuse the Ottomans of genocide or massacre or whatever you want to do, you have to take a look at these things. Huh?
Ladies and gentlemen, the video you just watched was prepared by TRT Television. And with me now from Istanbul, I have Mr. Jafar Hasnan. He's a leading journalist in Istanbul. Jafar, welcome to my program. Tell me about these 1915 crises that we are today talking about. What is the Turkish version of these sad events?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me in your program. Now, to begin with, let me underline one important point here. No one denies that the Armenians suffered terribly and that many of them were killed. But the same goes for the Ottoman Turks and Jews and Kurds of that time. Thousands of them were killed as well. So for Armenians to say that the Ottoman Turks engaged in a genocidal campaign against them is totally baseless. The killings at that time were triggered from treason, treachery, and the fact that the whole region was in a state of war. In fact, there are many documents present in the Ottoman archive which prove this narrative. And on top of that, many historians from across the world, of course, you don't see them on Western media outlet these days. Historians such as Bernard Lewis from Princeton University, Scottish historians such as Norman Stone, who was also an advisor to former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and also a constitutional lawyer of the United States, American constitutional lawyer, Mr. Bruce Fein, who served under the Ronald Reagan administration. All of them have categorically stated that a genocide did not take place. Now, this brings us to the question, why is the US so adamant on terming the tragic events of 1915 as a genocide? Now, this is where the Armenian lobby, which has been quite active in the United States over the past few decades, come into place. The Armenian lobby has tried on many occasions to persuade and influence the opinion of the United States against Turkey. We saw an example of it in the recent Second Karabakh War, which took place between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now, interestingly, the whole world recognized the region of Nagorno-Karabakh as a part of Azerbaijan. But Armenian lobby kept on influencing U.S. policy. That's why we saw some rather
But
misleading
Jafar, what does
statements.
the Armenian lobby get out of it? Because these events are from 1915. That's more than 100 years ago. So what do they actually get from bringing this now to the US and to all of us?
Of course, I think their main goal is to spread a false narrative of Turkey and countries like Azerbaijan. There is no evidence which proves that there was a genocide that took place in 1915. In fact, legally speaking, the term genocide was coined in 1940s. So for someone to label the events of 1915 as genocide is not legally possible. So the Armenian lobby over the past few decades has been engaged in spreading misinformation, disinformation, and fake news regarding Turkey and countries such as Azerbaijan as well. And let me also highlight another important point here. Not many people know, but let me tell you, Armenian terrorist organizations such as Asala have killed countless Turks and Azerbaijanis. And to give you some more information on that, because I'm sure not many people know this, because these important facts are not highlighted on media anymore. Armenian terrorists have killed countless Turkish diplomats over the past few decades. The former Turkish consul general to Los Angeles and many others were killed by Armenian terrorists in broad daylight in the United States. So in order to commemorate those killings, the Turkish officials here have also opened up an exhibition to remember those who were killed by Armenian terrorists. So again,
Jafar,
to come back to
what do you think is the reason that Armenians are shying away from opening of the archiving record that has been offered to them by the Turkish government?
Plain and simple, the truth will be out. The truth will be out. You know, just before coming on this show, I was going through some important documents regarding the tragic events of 1915. Again, I want to highlight tragic events because, yes, Armenians were killed. Armenians suffered terribly, but the same goes for the Ottomans, Ottoman Turks, Kurds, and the Jews of that time. So everyone suffered. Now, interestingly, there's a book which includes a report by the first Armenian prime minister. And guess what? That book is banned in Armenia. In fact, it's really hard to find that book in libraries across the world. In that book, the Armenian prime minister, the first Armenian prime minister himself acknowledges that, yes, Armenians engaged in a rebellion against the Turks. The Armenians collaborated with the Russians and engaged in treason. So, plain and simple answer to your question, Armenians do not want to open their archive because President Erdogan on multiple occasions have said that Turkey is ready to open its archive. Come, let's collaborate, let's investigate what happened. And this is what I don't understand. This is quite mind-boggling for me. Why are politicians
Jafar, let's
deciding
try to connect these 105 years old chain of events with what is happening recently. Tell me how the relationship is between Turkey and United States recently, or has United States and Turkey have had some sore experiences recently that might have triggered all of this?
Well, of course, the relationship between the United States and Turkey over the past few years has not been ideal. I believe the US and Turkey are strategic allies, not just strategic allies, they're also NATO members. But unfortunately, the United States took some rather controversial decisions against Turkey the past few years. Just to give you some example, the ringleader of the Fethullah Gulen terrorist organization, also called FETÖ, is still in the United States. He was behind the deadly coup attempt of 15th of July 2016, which killed more than 250 innocent Turks and injured 1,000 others. Now, Turkey has requested the United States to extradite Fethullah Gulen, but despite all these calls by the Turkish government, despite all the evidences, the US has still refused to extradite Fethullah Gulen. Now, that's number one. Number two, the US is supporting the PYD and YPG terrorist organizations, which are the Syrian offshoot of the PKK terrorist organization. Let me highlight an important point here. The PKK is recognized as a terrorist organization, not just by Turkey, but also by the European Union and the United States itself. So, of course, this has upset Ankara. Now, US claims that the YPG and the PYD are fighting Daesh terrorist organization, but it's quite bizarre. You cannot fight one terrorist organization with another one. So the US support
Jafar, do you
to
think the recent defense deal between Russia and Turkey is responsible? Particularly, I was reading about this buying of S-400 defense system that is particularly annoyed the United States a lot. And this has been discussed between the two foreign ministers much before this event took place.
Now, yes, I was coming. So this is the third factor involved here. Now, let me give you some background why Turkey chose to go for, to buy the S-400 missile defense system, being a NATO ally. Now, not many people know Turkey wanted to buy the US-made Patriot missile defense systems. However, the Obama administration refused to sell them to Turkey. Now, you have to think about this as well. Turkey has a very strategic location, and unfortunately, it is surrounded by some terrorist organizations as well. For example, the eastern border of Turkey poses a great threat to Turks. There have been countless incidents of terrorism on the eastern border. So Turkey has a very strategic location. It borders with Syria and Iraq. So Turkey needed an air defense system. So upon refusal from the United States, Turkey had no other option left. It decided to buy the S-400 missile defense systems of Russia. Now, the United States claims that this is going to sabotage NATO's security. So to respond to these concerns, Turkish president and Turkish officials said that let's create a group, let's collaborate and investigate whether this is a reality or not. But all these requests by the Turkish authorities have not been entertained by the United States. The US continues to take unilateral actions against Turkey. In fact, John Bolton, former security advisor, national security advisor of the United States, said that the US owes an explanation to Turkey regarding the S-400s, but so far the Turkey has not received any explanation or whatsoever from the United States.
Thank you very much, Jafar, for being on my program. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break here and we'll join back with the third and last segment of the program. Stay with us. Welcome back to third and last segment of my program. With me in the studio, I have Ms. Sumaira Khan. She is a foreign policy and defense analyst based in Islamabad. And from Lahore, I have Syed Zia Jafri. He is from the Center of Security, Strategy and Policy Research, University of Lahore. Zia, welcome to my program. Ms. Sumaira, first things first. We are talking about the relationship between Turkey and United States. What's your quick take on the events that have happened recently?
I think they are quite dependent on Pakistan's role in in the ties between the bilateral ties between Pakistan, Turkey and United States. And I think they are multi-pronged, multi-dimensional. We can't just give our synopsis over that. If you can just judge the quick moves between all the countries, all the blocs, all the reshufflings, global realignments, then I think there is much room to be discussed, and I think we should just wait for a few more months to finally give our final judgment over what US and Turkey are going, like in what direction they'll be heading to, and what kind of decisions they'll be taking towards each other. I think it will be premature to talk about the bilateral kind and bilateral nature of the ties between these two countries.
But do you think whatever has happened, whatever statement has come from White House, it is a symbolic political statement in nature, or does it identify a shift of American policy towards Turkey?
I don't see any shift right now, because if you see that US is in a position to kind of press Turkey in few matters, and you can always I can give you a little example in that, because I cover the defense issues, I do my own digital platform on these issues. So just a couple of months ago, we heard that Pakistan is going to give Turkey another extension to finalize its $5.2 something billion order on the Attack gunship helicopters, the T-129. And why it's in the limbo? Because US is not clearing the technology transfer license to Turkey. So now Turkey is compelled to order the TUSAS, the sister organization of TAI, Turkey aviation industry, that they are now going to develop their own indigenous engine for those gunship helicopters so that they can be delivered to Pakistan. So it's a little example where Pakistan is also being pressed in the fight between these two countries. But keeping in view, there are many issues where Turkey and US, they have same stance. And Pakistan is playing its very important, very crucial key role in bringing these two powers on the table. And another example of that, why Taliban were not ready to meet, to participate in the Istanbul meet, because they were not trusting Turkey in the larger interest, if you see that. So Pakistan was the key player there. That tried to convince Taliban to attend the Turkey summit, but Taliban
have yet not consented for
it. Their reservations were there, and one of those reservations was that we know on many important levels Turkey and US are on the same page, so we don't trust them. This comes from the very you can say that it comes from the very well placed sources, but it is a dangerous thing in its kind that Turkey simultaneously is with US and Turkey simultaneously is not with US. So there are two tracks in this bilateral kind of relationships.
Zia, could you hear the conversation that we had here in our studio? What's your quick take on it?
I think I would be a bit more circumspect in assessing the situation as of now. I would like to start off with why Biden has recognized the Armenian genocide, the so-called Armenian genocide of 1915, and at this time. I would identify 4 reasons as to why this has happened and what implications this would have on Ankara-Washington relations going forward. I think it's imperative for us to understand that Biden wants to do damage control of the Trump era. He feels that the Trump administration was haywire when it came to all these things related to alliances and in dealings with adversaries all over the world. So Trump had a very personalized kind of a relationship with Erdogan, and it is also mentioned in John Bolton's book, The Room Where It All Happened. And John Bolton had termed both Trump and Erdogan as kindred spirits. So this recognition of the Armenian genocide comes on the back of a strong pledge by Biden in and during his campaign to recognize this genocide. And this is part of a larger process of deterioration between Turkey and deterioration in the relationship between Turkey and the US since 2011, 2012.
So, as we have seen, Biden administration has very promptly started realigning the alliances or adjusting the foreign policy moves. There was a statement that disturbed Saudi Arabia just a week ago. We have now a statement that is disturbing Ankara, and God knows better what next to come. How do you see that?
As I just mentioned earlier, that there is no such final blocking right now in the global realignments. It will keep changing. Even Pakistan is right now choosing its enemies and friends and foes very carefully for the first time. And Afghanistan is very example of that. Pakistan is not concerned with whatever is their decision. Yes, Pakistan is concerned with their decision should be Afghan-led, Afghan-owned. And Pakistan is more it's concerned with their economy right now. For Pakistan as well and for Afghanistan as well, if we see them, we are bound to them and they are bound to us. Then Pakistan is not considering the geopolitical scenario anymore, as Ashraf Ghani said, and as Umar Daudzai, when he was speaking to RTA a couple of weeks ago, he mentioned that thing, that the much appreciated thing coming from Pakistan is that Pakistan is talking about geo-economy for the first time, Pakistan's and Afghanistan. So we are not, as I said earlier, right now it's not the stage where you can say that this is the final stage for the final battle. The final battle is yet to come. Either we call it, either we name it anything. Like from the Indian side, they are deeming Pakistan is preparing for Ghazwa-e-Hind. Are we preparing for Ghazwa-e-Hind? Not at all. We are just trying to get our economy emerge from the ashes, rise from the ashes. We have no time for this propaganda game. Pakistan is much concerned about Pakistan first. So I think the realignments are in process. They'll take time to get this.
Let me have a word with Zia. Zia, do you think that Turkey's engagement in the Middle East, particularly Syria and Libya, are to be blamed when it comes to the strain of relationship, the increasing strain of relationship between Turkey and the United States?
Absolutely. One of the critical factors that have marred US-Turk relationship is Turkish role in Syria, especially northern Syria. And the onus of responsibility here lies on the United States supporting the People's Protection Units, YPG, and the Syrian Kurdish Democratic Union Party. And because Turkey considers those parties as offshoots of the Kurdish Workers' Party, PKK, and Turkey does not want to have a separate Kurdish region in northern Syria. This is a principal concern for Turkey. So with the US supporting those groups, it's a no-go area for Turkey, and this is why the relationship between the two have deteriorated lately.
Ms. Khan, my last question is, how do you see Turkey responding to it? Because Turkey economically stands in a very tight corner at the moment. How do you think they're going to respond
Even
to it?
Pakistan is in a tight nip. I would be like honest towards you while explaining all these things. But you should, first of all, we should have the understanding of the entire game. If we talk about S-400, why not S-500? Russia is all done with S-500. And China is the country that has already acquired S-400 technology. And if China has that technology, then there is nobody who should stop Pakistan from acquiring that technology under the Transfer Technology Pact, and where China is not bound to any
But how Turkey is responding to it?
Turkey is, if you see all the moves of Ankara, Turkey through Pakistan is trying to get into a quad of Pakistan, China, Russia, and obviously Pakistan, Russia, China, and Turkey. This is a kind of quad that is going to happen in coming few months, and why Turkey wants that, I did my own program on that, and I tried to explain that Pakistan, they were not, they were in the census when they titled Pakistan as pivot state. Why they they always title us with this pivot state thing, because Pakistan is obviously the bone of contention. Pakistan is the only key country that has the solution. And Pakistan right now is mending, is paving the ways for Ankara to get into this strategic defense kind of design, so he can somehow or the other pressurize US.
Thank you very much, Ms. Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen and observed that the US foreign policy is taking turns, and it has having impact on its relationship with many countries. That recently includes Turkey. It will be very interesting to note how Turkey responds to it. We'll join you in next week with another program. And until then, Allah Hafiz.